This video is designed for you to hate it. Just by its nature, you're going to be like, overrated prospects, I love that guy. And it's not necessarily that I think the prospect's overrated. Maybe I think their stock's inflated, or they're just not my cup of tea, because I'm going to be taking my big board and stacking against the consensus big board. Arif Hassan from The Athletic, he actually compiled a top 300 big board from the opinions of over 70 different draft analysts. So with that being said, hey, one of your favorite guys are on this list, just know, hey, they're just not my cup of tea. It's all right to have a difference in opinion. But what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. The comments, they'll be a spicy, I bet you, especially for this tape or this video. Let's go ahead, get into the nitty gritty, starting with, this one was a surprise for me. Kyler Gordon, I didn't realize that he was this high for a lot of analysts, which, hey, that's a-okay. You know, if this is your guy, this is your guy, go for it. But for me, like, I get that he may sneak into the first round, but for me, I feel better taking this guy somewhere in round 2. And to be fair, like, he's at 33. It's not a huge difference, but for me, it was a difference enough. Like, he was the one cat, like, inside like the top 50, top 64 that I was like, oh wow, I'm like actually exceptionally lower on him than the consensus. And it doesn't mean he's a bad player, because he's pretty good. He's cornerback 7. You go check out my cornerback rankings. He made the list as I went over a top 15. But I don't think he's by any means ready to start. I think he needs to see more significant playing time. But the traits are there when it comes to Kyler Gordon. He didn't really measure out how I expected him to. Ended up having 31-inch arms. Expected a little longer, but that's fine. That's actually pretty solid for a corner. Just under 6 foot, just under 200 pounds. I think he was listed at 6 foot 203. There at Washington. Washington, you be a lion. You be a lion. But he tested out pretty well. 4.52 in the 40, but it was really the 39.5 in the vert, 128 in the broad, and then under 7 seconds in the 3-cone, under 4 seconds in the short shuttle. So yeah, tested out like a beast. He made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. But I think this cat, terms, I really think you're gonna have, like, he's gonna need to see significant steps. Like, that's how he's gonna get better. I don't think he's a guy that you have to like develop. He's a guy that just needs more playing time under his belt. Develop a quicker processor. Work on some things with his technique. Especially like his press technique needs a lot of work. There's sometimes he gets too high in his back pedal, but all in all, the ball skills are kind of legit. He had 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups this past year, so he's a good prospect. But I have him here at 60. Just happens to be a guy that apparently I'm lower on than the consensus. And the next one I want to talk about is Daniel Faalele out of Minnesota. I dropped him significantly down my draft board, but it's wild that people still have him as high as 61, I think. And I get it, like, the dude has an impressive frame. Legit 6'8", 384. Like, it's pretty good. And for being essentially a bit a rough around the edges prospect, like, he's been pretty good there at right tackle for Minnesota, only missing the 2022 season because of the 2020 season because of the shortened year, and he decided to opt out of that season. But it's just weird because I don't think the NFL is going to be higher on him, because he doesn't have the mentality of, I don't think he's not a physical guy. He doesn't have, hey, I'm going to bury you in the run game. Like, that's not him. He is more so the unmovable instead of the unstoppable force, the immovable object. That's him. And unfortunately at the Senior Bowl, that was a bit exposed because he was movable. Jesse Luketa legit knocked down a mountain in Daniel Faalele, and he comes in at number 10 on my OT board, sneaks into my top 100, but seeing him at 61, I was like, wow, man. Like, the dude's a project through and through. He shouldn't see playing time early. If so, it'll come to the detriment of your quarterback. But yeah, just another cat that I was like, oh wow, man, I didn't know people were still this high on him. Because remember, early in the year, some people like would sneak him in at the back end of the first round. Next, Isaiah Spiller. This is probably the hottest take. This is the one most people are going to disagree on, because I'm just not high on Isaiah Spiller. On the consensus, he's at 63. To me, that's ludicrous. I expect him, maybe he could sneak into the top 100. I expect to see him go off the board in day 2. I just don't like him that way, because legit, TJ Yeldon, he is just like TJ Yeldon. He can do many things well, but there's not that one trait that he could hang his cap on. And I'm just not that high on him. He's running back 15. So if you want to go to my running back rankings, I go into depth on him and why he's there. But I liked him in 2020 because he was a bigger back, a little shimmy once he got to the second level. He shedded off some pounds, and it just seemed that he got too bouncy. He got too fancy. I want to see him be able to lower the shoulder a bit more. He runs with a high pad level, especially once he makes it to the second level. And I think he'll be fine in the passing game. Like, again, there's just not that one trait, and he's just not a guy that I'm like, about, which is okay. It's okay. Listen, a lot of people loved, Jared Patterson last year? He ended up being an undrafted free agent. And I remember I was particularly lower on him, but I had him like 6th round. And people were like, that's crazy. He's going way higher than that. And I was like, I don't think so. And he goes undrafted. Shoot, a guy that I loved, Khalil Herbert. I had a 3rd round grade on that cat. Falls to the 6th round. Like, let's not take running back too serious. A lot of this is part that I'm not high on running backs. I'm just not. I don't think it's a very valuable position. I think it's a position where you could bring a lot of guys that do a lot of different things and be very successful at that. I'm not one to invest financially in running backs. That's why, as a Dolphins fan, I love that we got Mike McDaniel, because coming from the Niners, legit, that running game is built on journeymen and day 3 options. Just look at Elijah Mitchell. Had a pretty solid year last year. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Jerry McKinnon, like that's me. That's who I am. So that's why I'm not particularly high on Spiller. There's a few guys that I actually like a bit better. Again, if you want to go check out my running back rankings, it's on there on the channel. I go over the top 15. So Isaiah Spiller is in fact included. Another guy I do want to mention here that because there's actually a couple that probably a lot of y'all are probably higher on than I am. Ty Chandler's one name that comes to mind. It's just I feel like he was really only impressive during the last half of the season. I didn't really like a lot of his Tennessee tape, and I didn't really like a lot of what I saw early on. And yeah, he put up good combine stuff, but I don't know. And then Hassan Haskins, legit, not my cup of tea, guys. Some of y'all are like, oh, he's a top 10 back in this class. He's physical, and that's it. There's no dynamic aspect to his game, and I don't think he could just get by on being physical in the NFL. Legit, he is a goal line, short yardage back. That's it. That's not going to be high on my list. It's not going to be high on my radar for y'all. Some of y'all that say he's a top 10, I think you're misguided. You're acting like he's the second coming to Derrick Henry. By no means is he that. But I mean, hey, we were talking about Isaiah Spiller here, but overall, I'm not a guy that's high on running backs in general. And we're gonna see some of these guys fall anyway. I doubt Spiller's the one that falls, but yeah. Then Isaiah Likely, man, how the mighty have fallen. I really liked Isaiah Likely at the beginning of the year, and he had a solid year, but it was also like, man, he feels more like a jumbo receiver. He was actually used almost as much in the slot this past year as he was in line. He doesn't have a lot of blocking traits to him, but he's one hell of a receiver. Legit had he had not over 900 yards, 12 touchdowns this past year for Coastal Carolina. And then he comes in and didn't look extraordinary at the Senior Bowl. He just didn't test out well at the combine. Like, he came in the combine 238, 6'4", 238, ran a 4.8, had 36 in the vert, 123 in the broad, 733 in the 3-cone. Like, legit, the cat from Maryland, Chig Okonkwo, I thought put out the performance that I expected from Likely. That, and you look at Okonkwo and it's like, wow, that's just better Isaiah Likely. Sign me up. Legit, just sign me up. It sucks. So I got him at tight end 11 because I still think he could be used in the NFL as maybe like maybe a red zone threat or someone you sneak in as like the second tight end and try to create a mismatch. But yeah, man. And it doesn't help that Okonkwo is a legit blocker compared to Likely. So it sucks. It's rough, but it kind of is what it is. And then next on the list, Coby Bryant. This one's the other one I was like, I know this one's going to be hot too, because I actually really like Coby Bryant. He's cornerback 17 for me. He sneaks into my top 150, but a lot of people see him at the back end of day 2. And I mean, hey, when it's all said and done, that can happen, but I don't know, man. I'm not high on the cat. He was thrown to a lot because, well, across from him was a Sauce Gardner, and nobody was throwing towards Sauce. Nobody. So I feel like his ball skills, Coby Bryant's, were kind of inflated this year because he had to deal with a lot of guys, well, throwing his way. And legit, I think the dude's an average athlete. I know he tested out 4.47, but he doesn't necessarily look that way on tape because a lot of his stuff is spot dropping. He played actually a pretty heavy zone coverage role, and like just went to the Senior Bowl and it just didn't look good, man. He had his wins, he had his losses, but it just looked like, especially against the best receiver probably at the Senior Bowl was Jalen Tolbert. So it wasn't like it was a spectacular group. He wasn't facing the top guys in this class. And he looked kind of like, whatever. I think he's probably a zone guy through and through. And just, yeah, the ball, I don't know, man. I like a lot of other guys in this class. Like there's the lower level competition guys like Zion McCullen and Joshua Williams, who just have better traits, better athletic profiles than Coby Bryant. Then there's like my guys like Alante Taylor that I really like, or even Jalen Armour-Davis, who had a hell of a year, tested out well, and really the only red flag you could come up with him is playing time, and a lot of that was results of injury. So yeah, like he just started getting like shot down my list slowly but surely. I really do like Coby Bryant. I love the Black Mamba V2 here, but he is a guy that I'm lower on than the consensus. Next, Josh Jobe. I think we could all agree on this one because I have not been a big Josh Jobe guy since the beginning. I just haven't. He this past season, I felt like he was pretty exposed. He's always been a guy that's been heavy with penalties. 7 this past season, 11 the year before. Like, it's not great. It's not great. Even 4 in 2019, where he only saw 300 snaps. He allowed 4 touchdowns this year, a completion rate of 72%. For me, man, the cat's just not that great. He's 24, at least going to be 24 by the beginning of the year. And like I don't think he tested out athletically. I didn't see him do anything in his pro day, or at least I don't have numbers for that, but the dude doesn't look fast on film. He's a guy that has to lay hands, and he can be a good technician. It's just he holds on for way too long, and he was definitely we all know that Alabama's secondary kind of had a down year this year, and a lot of that stemmed from Josh Jobe, unfortunately. So just a cat I'm not high on. And Jalen Wydermyer. Everyone's gonna think I hate A&M prospects. I really don't. There's quite a few I like in this class, but Wydermyer, man, he's coming out after a down year, man. Because first things first, he didn't really take a next step as a blocker. He's a big question mark when it comes to being a blocker, and I felt like he played less physical this year when it comes to that. And then this year, ball skills, like the drops became an issue out of freaking nowhere for Jalen Wydermyer, because prior to this season, here I'm trying to pull this up. He had 4 drops in the previous 2 seasons. Then this past year, 8 drops on 70 targets. That's horrible. Like, where did your ball skills go? Because what he has going for him is this guy's a chain mover. This guy's a red zone option, but not with that type of ball skills. Like, I legit don't know what happened. And when he does offer after the catch ability, like he is physical in that regard. I think he had 6 forced missed tackles this past season, but overall everything was down. And then I bring up he can make people miss after the catch. Not necessarily. He's a bit more physical in that regard. He's got a pretty good stiff arm. But the dude went to Texas A&M's pro day and did a 5.03.40. That ain't it, bro. That ain't it. He's a guy that stumbled down boards after being so highly regarded coming into the season. Real rough season for Wydermyer. Rough off-season draft process for him as well. And then let's get into the offensive lineman. I got Dare Rosenthal out of Kentucky. I'm gonna do a top 300 big board tomorrow. You're not even gonna see this cat on it. He just missed it. He's there at 305, and it's just, I think he's he's a project at the end of the day. I don't like that he's sub 300 at 6'7". Like, he's a guy that's gonna have to develop his body a bit more. On top of that, he tested, like, at least in terms of the 40, he tested well, but just everything from a technique standpoint needs work. Like, his hands aren't that great in pass protection. I just see him as this big project and more of a priority free agent than actually being draftable. But he apparently on the consensus big board, 149. That was a name that really shocked me. I was like, I didn't realize people were that high on him. So I could see him getting drafted, like, again, at 305. If he's a guy you don't want to risk having to try to sign after the draft's over, just go ahead and take him at the back end of the draft. I think he's a good project, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm taking a midday 3. And then Alec Lindstrom, I've been pretty open about Alec Lindstrom, where I see what's the problem with him. And this dude, I don't think can hang with NFL strength. That's my legit biggest gripe, biggest concern with him. He's 164 on the consensus. I got him at 125. And this cat is just under 300 pounds. He's a really good pass protector, and he's a guy you want in movement. He's very athletic. He's very technically sound as well. I mean, his big brother's been doing pretty well for the Falcons there, Chris Lindstrom. But at the Shrine Bowl, unfortunately got put on the team that was running more power gap concepts rather than maybe zone, outside zone blocking concepts, and you just saw it. It's like, man, power, like legit play strength. It's gonna be a problem. So he's legit a very specific scheme fit. Which I was talking to Alex from Hail Mary podcast last night about this. That how analytically scheme actually matters less when you get closer to the line of scrimmage for these guys. I don't think that's the case for Lindstrom. I don't see this cat being a very power-oriented scheme. I don't think he has NFL strength that way. He's a guy that needs to be on the move and catch guys off guard. So, yeah, I got him at 225, so what, about 80 spots lower? And then last but not least, Andrew Stueber. I've been openly not a fan of Stueber. I think he's legit just strength, and that's it. He's a guy that's going to have to play on the interior. There in Michigan, he played right tackle a bit, and he lost to just savvier pass rushers. I think he gave up 7 pressures and a sack to Michigan State and Georgia this year, which that's fair, but Michigan State, it was what's his name? Jacob, I forget his last name, but that cat, very savvy pass rusher. Another guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks into the end of day 3, but he's probably a UDFA. But man, Stueber, like, I don't like how he uses his hands. He goes to the Senior Bowl and it just kind of cemented everything I thought about him. Like, going in, I was like, this guy's probably a late day 3 guy. And then he just lost and lost and lost and lost and lost. Like, for a dude, like, how big are you, my friend? Where are you at? 6'7", 325. He was constantly on the ground at the Senior Bowl. Like, it was bad. It was rough. He's legit 341 on my big board. That's a big gap between where I think he should be and where the consensus thinks he'll go. To be fair though, that would put him in the late day 3 area, where that's kind of initially where I thought he was, but that was before the Senior Bowl. But I mean, to be fair, he played all right in the game, and that's saying a lot considering how much the offensive line struggled throughout the week and in the game. But still, I'm just not, I wouldn't draft this guy. I'd much rather take a flyer on him as a undrafted free agent. But yeah, he's one guy that I knew was going to be on this list. I knew I just knew the consensus would be higher on him than me. I'm probably the lowest guy on Stueber. But quite frankly, I see him getting drafted 6th, 7th round. If he goes earlier than that, I think that's kind of like, okay. Because this dude's ceiling, I think, is legit bench warmer, which is fine. Like, he has the body type that'll stick around the NFL. He has the strength that'll stick around in the NFL. I just don't think he'll be a good starter. But let me know who are some of your guys in the comments, and tell me how much you hate Isaiah Spiller and Coby Bryant being on this list, because I know you do. Anyway, that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing, and as always, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.